What made you want to write the Luc et Sophie stories?
Well, I had taught French to a big range of ages for many years, and in the course of that I inevitably gained a huge amount of experience about what works with children. I started with ages 4 and then went up to age 13 in this particular school. So there was one universal element that ensured that children were motivated to learn, and that was fun. So in all my teaching, I tried to make learning fun. And then when I got the idea for the books, I thought, well, how do I translate this actually into book form? And that was the idea of the stories, and that was how they were born. Because my whole ethos is make learning fun, and then the children will want to learn and they will learn effortlessly.
So why are stories a good starting point for learning a foreign language?
From my experience, I've learned that children of all ages love stories, whether they read them or they listen to them. And I happened upon the idea to make the stories really relevant to children of all ages. All children have certain events in their lives that they are really interested in, their birthdays being a principal one. So I thought to myself, okay, how do I do this so that I can incorporate all these important life events that children are really keen on and love to talk about, and thereby learn from as well in a foreign language. And my books then are structured in such a way that each builds upon the next. So we start with a basic formula for, in this case, book 1 of series 1, children are being got up for school by their mum and they don't want to get out of bed. Well, that's normal, we can all relate to that. And then that vocabulary is revisited in the next book with extra vocabulary. So there is the opportunity for consolidation, and so it goes. So each builds upon the next. Different forms of grammar are introduced, but there's always the opportunity for consolidation. So that was principally it, that I know children love to listen to stories. So that became very evident from my experience with very young children to 13-year-olds. They all love stories.
How did you come up with the idea for the stories?
I based the characters of Luc and Sophie upon my own children. I have a son and a daughter, and unlike in the book, Luc is the elder sibling. It's the other way around with my own children, but the common factor is that as typical children, they got into mischief, they squabbled, but when the chips were down, they always stuck up for each other and they were good friends. And I thought, let's have a couple of characters that children can relate to, even if they are only children or even if they have more siblings, then they can relate to these children who are in typical situations in any child's life.
What has been the reaction of children to the stories?
They've loved them. And it's been really gratifying for me to see this with my own eyes, because I've visited a number of schools. I've actually taught using my own materials, and the children have been really engaged. And also from hearing the experience of other teachers to whom I've spoken, that has been a universal experience, which, as I say, is extremely gratifying.
What would be your advice to teachers wishing to integrate Luc et Sophie into their French lessons?
The books have been carefully structured to provide a framework for teaching French to young learners. As such, and obviously based on my many years teaching, I know they work. So they are fun, they are interactive, and children love them. So they learn effortlessly, and they learn willingly and with great motivation, because quite often they want to know what happens next in the story.
So you have the stories in the pack. What else do you have?
Well, within the teacher's book, There are an awful lot of exercises from which the teacher can pick and choose or use all of them, depending on time available and that kind of thing. So the additional resources are flashcards, for which I suggest a great number of uses, all game-based, because children just enjoy playing games and they will learn without even realising they're learning. Then there are the interactive whiteboard activities. And again, from my experience, I know how much children love to go and play on the whiteboard, and they are playing, but they're learning while they're playing. Then there are role plays and there are songs, and children love to sing the songs. So there are many, many resources contained within the pack, which any teacher, any child can use, enjoy and relate to.
Do you have to be a language specialist to use the stories?
Absolutely not. And that has been one of my key objectives, because not all schools have language specialists. If they do, it's a bonus. But the way I wrote these books was to make them accessible to all teachers. This being the case, what I have been sure to incorporate within the stories is a pronunciation model. So the stories are spoken by native speakers, the songs are sung by native speakers, and very importantly, the vocabulary lists are spoken. So once again by native speakers, of course, so the pronunciation is modelled. So even if a teacher feels a little bit embarrassed or not confident in their use or pronunciation of the language, the children can hear it from them for themselves and they can model it. There are many opportunities to repeat what they hear, and thus they will hear the correct pronunciation. And again, in my experience, children instinctively can just hear something and repeat it. So pronunciation, I think, might be the thing that deters many non-specialist teachers from wanting to teach a language, but they needn't worry, because my Sophie stories actually take the hard work away from them, and they have everything they need to be able successfully to teach this language.